to this research techniques and essay writing. This is a project that we have talked about for a while to get everybody up to speed, or at least help people with being able to do some research and also do be a better writer as far as research papers and essays. So we're going to cover a couple of different things this morning, and it's going to be myself and then Angela Byers. And most of you know Angela Byers. If you don't, you need to get to know her. Okay, so these are the areas I'm going to cover. We're going to talk a little bit about research techniques, and then we're going to get into the formatting, the two types of formatting that we have, APA formatting and MLA formatting. Then we're going to talk about writing an essay and then do an exercise. Now, Ingrid, I know that you may have some stuff going on today, but the APA portion of it probably is going to be very beneficial to you. And if you need to cut out, you just cut out whenever you need to
Yeah,
go.
they will start live streaming our pastor's funeral about 10:45. So, excuse me, I'll cut out then because I need to set it up on the TV so my mother can watch it.
Okay, awesome. And so that probably will be right around the time that either the APA formatting is getting towards the end or whatever, and I'll have the slides available to you so you can see the rest of what Angela has to present. Plus, we're recording this so you can watch it
Okay.
there. So. And that goes for any other viewers that are going to watch this, that since it is being recorded, you can watch it over and over and over. We're going to divide it up into segments. So I'll do the research techniques first, and then we're going to stop the recording, and then we're going to set it up for the APA format and start the recording again. And then when the APA format is done, we're going to stop the recording and then go on. So that way you see research techniques, then APA format, and maybe you only need some of that. So we're going to break it up today. All right. So let's start with research techniques. So all of us in classes, whether it's a history class, or whether it's some type of humanities class, maybe even in a computer class. I know a computer class that I took one time, I had to do a research paper in it. So any of the classes, a lot of times we have to do some type of essay, we have to do a research paper, we have to do something, some type of writing. And for a lot of us, we end up getting, in many cases, what is known as writer's block. We get to a point to where we say, okay, I know I got to do a paper, but what do I do it on? How do I put it together? What are some of the things that I need to go out and find as far as resources go? And so we all get to that point where we have to ask ourselves those type of questions. So we're going to cover some of the research techniques. And first, we're going to talk about finding a topic. So how do I come up with a topic? And there's a lot of different ways. What I'm going to talk about here is not all inclusive. You may have your own method of being able to come up with a topic, and that's fine. Whatever works for you. But the point is, if you got a paper you got to have a topic. You got to have something that tells you this is what I'm going to talk about in this paper, or that tells the reader this is what I'm going to talk about in this paper. And you got to find information on that particular topic. So here's some of the ways you may get a topic. One of the first ways is that topic may be assigned by the instructor. Some instructors, especially in your undergrad program, some instructors just go ahead and assign students a topic. So they give you what you're going to write on. Some of them may give you a primary topic and allow you to pick some subtopics to that. but a lot of instructors just go ahead and just assign a topic. I had one instructor one time in my master's class that she put a bunch of topics on pieces of paper and then put all those papers in a hat, and we had to draw that hat, and whatever we got, we got. And so you had to write on that. And so that's an example of an instructor assigned a topic. Even though I had some choice in it, it was really a random choice. She selected the topics, and then the students picked from that selection. I had another instructor that basically handed out a paper, and it had all these different topics. This was a history instructor, had all these different topics related to what we had been studying in that particular history class, and you had to pick from that paper. And it could be that he allowed some students to pick the same topic in there. So he got to see different perspectives on the same exact topic. So each student didn't necessarily have a different topic. I know me and one other person did the same exact topic, but we took it from a different angle. It had to be, it was on a individual that happened to be in history, and we approached it from two different angles. So that was kind of interesting, and that's still an instructor assigned topic. But let's say your instructor, let's say you're in a class and your instructor does not assign you a topic, but it has to be in a particular area. So you have to have an essay or a research paper that covers something that has to do with higher education, or something that has to do with money in education, or that something that has to do with a particular area of history. Maybe anything that has to do with the American Revolution, or anything that has to do with World War II. And you could pick a person, you could pick an event, you could pick a battle, you could pick anything. But it just has to be focused on a particular area. So now as a student, you got to select what you're going to write on. So the very first thing that I like to do is, number one, what are some of my interests? What is something I'm interested in? Because my best papers have always been when I talk about something that I like, something that I enjoy, something that maybe I've read a lot about, or something that I kind of am an amateur in research in that area. So something that I'm interested in. So that's one of the very first things I always look at. So let's say you're taking a class, a master's class, and it has to do with budgeting. Okay. A lot of people sit there and say, well, what do I care about, budgeting and higher education, but find something that maybe you are interested in, like budgeting in a particular program, or how to be able to handle money when it comes to federal grants or something like that. So find some area that you may be interested in. The other thing is, you can look at something that you've read. You can find a particular topic or particular subject in maybe some information that you've recently read. Maybe something that you got out of a magazine. It could have been out of a book, out of a newspaper, or anything that's related to that. For example, one of the research papers that I did in college came actually from a book that I read, and it was one paragraph in this book that mentioned a particular area of the United States that I was somewhat familiar with because I visited when I was a kid. And that paragraph prompted me to do some research into this particular area, and I wrote a paper on it. So that was something that I have read, and something that I connected with in my reading. So look at those. Look at something that you've read. Look at something maybe you read recently, you've read in the past, and it could be out of a book, it could be out of a magazine, could be out of a journal article, any of those type of things. A newspaper, Maybe even something on the TV that prompted you to maybe look at a particular subject area. So something that you've read. The other one that you can do is expand on another topic that you've already used. Now, if you're working on your master's program, then I don't know if you did this, but I know I have. I wrote a paper when I was in my undergraduate, and guess what? I went ahead and took that same exact paper and I just expanded it for my master's program. It was the same topic area. I made some adjustments to it. I covered a much more in depth in the particular subject area when I was doing my master's program. So that's an example of a topic that I'd already written on, I had already researched out, I already even had some journal articles on it, and I just expanded it and applied it in another class there. So, and it was something that I was interested in. It actually had to do with youth and music, and how music impacts behavior. And so that was something that I had already did, and I used it for my master's program. And so you can do that. You can expand on something that you've already written. Another example of that is someone that I was taking classes with wrote a paper in one class on a particular subject, and that same subject, what she was able to apply it to another class. Now, she didn't use the exact same paper, but she took that same topic and just approached it from a different angle for a different class. And so that's an example of expanding on another topic that you've already used. And then you can also, issues that attract your attention. You maybe could select a topic from a particular issue that you are interested in. And that also can go back to the very first one. Let's say something is happening in society recently, and so you see that particular issue and it attracts your attention. You did some reading on it. Maybe you can apply that into a class. You can select a particular topic from something that's an issue that you're attracted to, that you're concerned with. It could be like nowadays we talk a lot about racism and those type of things. It could be in an area of the way the federal government budgets. It could be in an area of access to higher education for those that are working on something related to education. So it could be something that's an issue it's a current issue that's going on that may attract your attention. And there are other ways that you may be able to select a topic, but these are just some ways that I try to do it, and I try to narrow it down to what I want to do as far as an essay or a research paper goes. One of the things that I want to make sure that I get across is make sure that your topic is narrow enough that you can write about it and that you are able to find good information on it. Unfortunately, I think some individuals they take their topic and it's too broad. And so when it's too broad, sometimes you can't wrap your arms around it. So make sure that you narrow your topic enough that you can wrap your arms around it and you can actually gather good information about it, and you can get specific on it and not use a lot of generalities in your essay or your research paper. So don't have too broad a topic. Don't in a history class, don't say my topic is the American Revolution. That's pretty broad, and you're going to have a hard time actually narrowing stuff down in there, and you're going to do a lot of picking in a lot of different areas, and you're not going to be able to come to some type of conclusion or draw some good information into that's going to capture the reader. So you want to make sure that you narrow it down. For example, if it was the American Revolution, then you may want to narrow it down to a particular battle or a particular person or a particular event that happened, or a particular maneuver. Or if you wanted to talk about The civil rights movement. You wouldn't just have an essay or a research paper on the civil rights movement. I mean, there are books written on the civil rights movement. So you don't want to write an essay or a research paper just on that. You want to narrow it down to a particular part of the civil rights movement. Maybe the act, the 1964 Civil Rights Act that was passed, or 1957 Civil Rights Act, or a particular march, the Selma to Montgomery March, or something that happened. I wrote a paper one time on Jimmy Lee Jackson and a particular individual that was involved in the civil rights movement and was killed. And so, so you want to narrow it down enough that you can actually write a good paper on it, and that's not too broad and too general there. Any questions? All right. If none, we'll continue. All right. So now I got my topic. I've selected something that I want to write. I want to write on. And now, how do I find my information? So I've taken my topic, and now I got to look for information related to this particular topic. There's a lot of different places that you can find information from. I don't cover every single one of them here, but I cover some of them here, and you probably can come up with more. One of the first things that you want to do when you're looking at putting together a research paper, especially in college, whether it's undergraduate, and especially in a master's program or higher, you want to make sure that you look at articles. And I'm not talking about articles out of a magazine. That may be helpful somewhat, but I'm talking more of journal articles. So peer-reviewed articles, articles that have some solid research in there that can help you put that information together and that can support what you're trying to write. So we're talking journal articles, peer-reviewed articles. Those are the things that professors are looking for as information that supports whatever your topic is that you're writing on. So you can do that, and you can do that several different ways. You can go into any type of search engine, and you can type things in there and try to find articles that way. The best way is to go through the library, to go either online through the school library and go to one of the search engines in the school library, and most of them have a section that strictly is articles, and you can type a topic, a keyword in there, or if you know a particular author, you can type an author in there, and it will come up with different journal articles or different information that's based on that topic or that author. So the other thing you can do is look for books. For example, I got some books right here that you can get information from that you can use in a paper. One of them talks about exercise in the brain and how that's important. The other one is about curriculum and how our public school system and how that curriculum is developed and what's going on with it. Then I also have some journal articles here that you may see later. So, but books are a good source, but one of the things that you got to remember about books are not necessarily peer reviewed. So books are a person's opinion or what they interpret something to be by a particular area. Something that they're interested in, and it's their perspective. And you have books out there that give good information, and you have books out there that give bogus information. You just got to be able to know how to pick and choose your information. So books are a source, but you got to be careful about what kind of information you get out of the books themselves. Maybe that particular book, the person that wrote it is an expert on that subject, And so therefore, that's a good source to use. Maybe they're not an expert on it. Maybe it's just their opinion, and you got to be able to understand that when you write it, or if you include it in your paper, you got to make sure that you tell the reader that that this is an opinion, this is an opinion piece, or this is this person's perspective or view. This is not necessarily everybody's view, or this is not necessarily 100% fact or 100% truth. So you got to be careful about that. Another source you can get is from newspaper articles. Now, you also have to be careful about newspaper articles, because once again, they're a perspective, they're an opinion a lot of times. But here's the neat thing about newspaper articles. If you're doing a research paper on, let's say, something historical, and it happened back in maybe the early 1900s or the 1800s, newspapers are a really cool source of what was going on in society at the time that that event happened. And so those are really neat sources for that. Now you understand that that even the reporter or whoever wrote that article, that's their opinion, but it gives you a really cool idea of what was happening within society. And if you can take newspaper articles and journal articles and books and magazines and some of the other resources, and you can pull them together, you can triangulate. What triangulation is where you get at least three sources that three different sources that tell you the same information. And if you can do that, then you got a pretty good idea that what you have there is probably the truth or a good fact. So newspaper articles are really great when it comes to historical type of research paper. The other one is magazines, and magazines, again, will give you some idea of what's going on in society at the time. They'll give you some idea of a perspective from a particular angle there. So magazines are really good, but again, magazines are not peer reviewed necessarily. They may have an article on some magazines, especially ones that cover history. Sometimes will have articles in there that come from journals. But the magazine itself is not necessarily peer reviewed, so you got to be careful about that. Another place is transcripts or oral information. So someone sits down with an individual and they interview that person, maybe a particular historical figure or a person that saw a particular event, and then a transcript is made from that. There is really good information that you can take from a transcript, because you're getting basically an eyewitness account, or you're getting an individual's information of what they saw, what they heard, what they experienced, and it's firsthand account of information. But again, that is not necessarily peer reviewed. That is something that's that person's perspective, and you can use it to bolster something that you've written, but you can't base everything on just oral transcripts. It's kind of like I was watching a movie yesterday, and they were talking about how unreliable eyewitness accounts are. So if something happens and we all see it, and we're separated, and an investigator interviews us individually, and we're separated from that, we're going to give different story, because we have different perspectives. And guess what? We may not have the 100% story ourselves, but if you take them all, put them all together, you're probably going to get a good idea of what happened. So you have to remember that oral transcripts are from that person's perspective. And you'll need other things to be able to back that up. So an oral transcript, along with maybe a newspaper article that shows that this event happened and this event took place on this particular day or time, along with maybe a journal article that someone has written about a particular topic or has data on a particular topic, and you pull those together and they all kind of take you down the same angle, that's good triangulation. That's good resources there. Another one is video documentaries. So you can go on, everybody knows about YouTube, and you can go on YouTube and you can pull up video documentaries on particular topics. You can also pull up not just oral transcripts, but video interviews of individuals. And I'll give you an example. When I was working on my dissertation, one of the things that I used as part of my information to go into my dissertation was interviews of individuals that were experienced this particular event that I was writing on. And those interviews were done by video. So someone sat down and interviewed this individual and they taped it. I watched it. I had the transcripts from it, so I could verify that yes, what they said was what this transcript had here, and I used that. And the neat thing about it is now I can see that person. I see what they look like. I see the reaction they have on their face. I hear their voice. It's not just reading words like what you would do in a transcript. I actually get to see that individual. And so that made it much more powerful because I could see the sincerity in their eyes and hear it in their voice, and I could make that connection with that person. And so video documentaries are really good. Also, the documentaries, like Ken Burns has some really cool documentaries out there on different subjects, and you can get some really neat information from those. The other thing that's cool about documentaries is they provide you normally with their resources. So you may be able to go to some resource that a documentary used, and you may be able to use that same resource on an essay or a research paper that you're writing. So video documentaries are a good place to be able to pull information from. Another one is just go to Google search. I mean, if you can't do anything, you can type it into to a search engine, whether it be Google or Yahoo or something else, type it into a search engine, your topic, and see what pops up, okay? So you can do that. But again, if you're writing an essay or a research paper and that professor really wants some good, hard, solid information, you got to make sure whatever you pull up it's good information. It's not just hearsay. It's not just somebody's opinion. Unless you're writing on something that has to do with just opinions, then you can do that. The last thing, and this is something that I would never reference in a paper, and that's Wikipedia. Okay, if Wikipedia actually is a decent place to go and start, because in most your topics in Wikipedia, at the very end, they have a source information or resources that they get information to back up what they've put in that in Wikipedia, and you can look on those, and those resources or those sources are things that you may be able to use. But never say, I got the information from Wikipedia. Okay, just don't do that in a paper there, because most professors will probably slap your hand for it and stuff. So, but it's a good place to kind of start. If you're just completely lost and you ain't got a clue of what you're going to do, go ahead and type it into Wikipedia, go to the end of your topic, and look at the sources that Wikipedia uses. Any questions? None, Jan? All right. So now I've come up with the topic. I've looked for resources. I got my sources. I got some books. I got some articles. Now, how do I pull all this together? And I'll confess that I did not come up with this technique. This technique was shown to me when I was working on my undergrad, and I've used it for several different research papers and essays. And I really like the way it's set up. This just basically helps you somewhat organize your information. And so we're gonna go over this. So the first thing that you want to do is you got all your sources. So I got everything here on the table. I got all my sources that I want to use. I've looked through them. I've read them. I've highlighted stuff in them. I've picked areas that I think could apply to my research paper. And I just took and divided this up into a simple 5-paragraph or 5 section research paper. That's why I have an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and then a conclusion. But if you have a longer research paper, then it's going to be much longer, and you may need several of these sheets to be able to do it. And you may not put paragraph down here. You may put first topic, second topic, third topic, or you may put major headings or something like that on the side. So it's totally up to you, and you can modify this. Excuse me. You can modify this however you want to. So let me start with the first one. So I got a book right here, Dumbing Us Down: The Hidden Curriculum of Compulsory Schooling by John Taylor Gatto. So what I would do is, say I found something in this book. I put my topic or my thesis up here at the top. I write what it is. And the reason why I do that is because I want to make sure that I stay on topic, that I stay on what I'm talking about, that I don't go off and start chasing rabbits all over the place. So that keeps me on topic. I got my topic or my thesis right there at the top. I'm looking at it. I will always see it while I'm going through this. So I found something in this book that I think could apply to my topic. Now, just because I put it up here does not necessarily mean I will always use it. Okay, this helps me organize it, but I'm going to pick and choose while I'm writing, because once you get writing and once you get into the writing process, you may change some things around while you're writing, because you may discover I like the organization a little bit different, or it makes more sense, or the logical way that I'm putting it out may be different, but that's okay. This just kind of helps you get going here. So I found something in this book that I think will apply in possibly my first paragraph of this essay. So what I'm going to do is, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to write this book up here. So I may put the last name of the author, and then I may put the name of the book. Right there. And a lot of times I will go ahead and put the year that it was written, and you can get that out of the off the title page, and the copyright for this is 2017. Okay, so now anything that I put in here is going to be related to this particular book. Okay, and this particular book is related to my topic. So I found something on page 43 that I could put in my first paragraph. And then I went through it and I found something on page 145 that can go in my third paragraph. So I'm just going to write those pages in here. Now, you can actually type some words in here, because you'll probably have this on Word, that you can actually type stuff in it. You don't necessarily have to write it in there like I'm doing right now. So I may type a few words in here, so that way I know on page 43 some of the words that I took. I personally I highlight in the book or in the article exactly what I want to use. So I take a highlighter and I highlight all the information that I want to use in there. And then the only thing I write down is the page number, and that tells me where to go in that article or that book to be able to get the information for that. So let's say out of this book, I only found two things in it that I think could apply to what I'm writing. So I got that. Now I take another book. So I got another one here, and I got Rady, and this is on, this is called Spark. And it was, copyright is 2008. Now, let me tell you real quick, why do I write the copyright dates down here? One of the reasons is because you may have some instructors that say that all your resources have to be within the last 5 years. So if you have that, then you got to make sure that all your resources are within the last 5 years. You may have some instructors that say you just got to have something in the last 10 years or something, or depending on what you're writing on, it may not matter. If you're writing on something historical and you got information, let's say it's something from 1877, and you got information like newspaper articles and stuff from back then, well, obviously that's not going to be within the last 5 years. But a lot of instructors, if you're using journal articles or if you're using books or you're using anything of that source, they want the information within the last five years. And so you put the copyright date up there. So let's say out of Spark, I found something I really liked, what he said on exercise in the brain in a particular part of the book, and I want to put that in my introduction. So I'm going to put page 23, say that I found something out of that book that I think is a real neat quote to go into my introduction that's going to set up whatever I'm talking about here. And then I may have found something that I think would fit in the second paragraph of my research paper. So then I put that page number down there. Now I've highlighted it in the book, or I put a tab there, I put something there to tell me that's the information that I'm using. So that way, when I go to that book and I go to that particular page, I know exactly what it is. I'll put one more thing up there because I think you guys see get the idea. So let's say now I got a journal article. So I got this journal article right here on the myth and mystery of the shrinking attention span. And so it's written by, I can't pronounce the individual's last name. So I'm just going to put Subra. It's real long. I'm not going to put it all the way across there. And this article was written in 2018. And it has to do with attention span. Which for many of us, we don't have a very long attention span. So, so I'm gonna hurry up with this. So I've read this article, I've highlighted the article, I found some really cool things out of it, and especially maybe something in the conclusion or the results area that I think would fit in my essay. So I'm going to put some things down here. So let's say I found something on page 6 that I think would go along with my second paragraph. And let's say I found something that I think would also go in the introduction about the attention span. And I found that on page 7. So I put it there. And let's say I found something that in their conclusions that I think would be good in my conclusions. So then I put the page down there. And once again, I've highlighted this and now I've put it on here, what page it's found on in the journal article. So does everybody get an idea of what I'm doing here? So I'm just organizing. That's all this is organizing my paper. Okay. When I start writing the paper, I will be able to switch around and maybe do a couple things a little bit different. I may decide that this particular quote out of page 6, it may be better in my third paragraph, or it may be better up here in my first paragraph. I don't know, but at least I'm getting some organization going. Now, here's the cool thing. One of the hardest things for most individuals is to start writing. That's one of the hardest things. You'll sit at your computer and you got this blank piece of paper right there. You've typed your heading in there and you're lost. You don't know where to go. You can't get the first word out on there. And that's tough. It is. I've been there. I've been looking at that blank piece of paper and nothing's coming. So what this does is this allows you to get started, because this is what you do. You go to your introduction, and every place that you put something in here that you're going to include in your introduction, you go to that page and you type that information on your paper for your introduction. You just type it in there, word for word, exactly what you want. It may not stay that way, but you've gotten started. You got it on a piece of paper. Then you go to the next one for your introduction. You type that in there. Make sure you put your resource down. And if you do it in Word, you can do it in such a way to where as you complete something, it automatically puts it in your reference on your reference pages, because you can add references to your paper in Word, and it will automatically put those in there. So that's also helpful. So now I've started my introduction. I've put down everything that I've taken from my resources and I put it in my introduction. Then I go to my next paragraph. I do the same exact thing. I write down all the things that I found out of my resources for my next paragraph, and I type them in there word for word. Make sure I put them in quotes, and make sure I put my references and do it exactly the way I'm supposed to as far as formatting goes, but I type them in there. And then I go to my next paragraph. I do the same exact thing. I do that for my third paragraph, and then finally I do that for my conclusion. Now, guess what you just did? You got stuff already written down. You got information already on that paper that you didn't have to come up with and you didn't have to figure out. You already got it on that paper. So now you've started. You got words on there. You can look at those words. You can read those words. And then now here's where your creativity comes in. So you go back to your introduction. You look at your quotes and you formulate a paragraph, an introductory paragraph around your quotes and around the information that you put in there. So now you can start explaining what this is. You can start integrating your own sentences in with the ones that you took from your resources. You get your introductory paragraph formulated exactly the way you want it. Then you go to your next paragraph. You do the same exact thing. You take your quotes, or you take your information that you get from your resources, and you start working a paragraph around those. You start explaining and expanding and using transitions and doing all those things to be able to come up with your first body paragraph. You do the same thing for your second body paragraph, your third body paragraph, and then your conclusion, okay? Now, once you did that, you've got an essay there, okay? Or you've got a research paper there, depending on how much information you put on it. So you have that. Now you just got to go back and massage it. Add a little bit to it, take away some, maybe move things around. give it to somebody else to read and take some input from them. And then you're just massaging it from that point. But what this has done, this has helped you to organize it and get it started, get it going. And that sometimes is the hardest thing to do. So what we've covered is we covered the research techniques on how you come up with a topic, look at your interests, look at things you've written before. We've talked about some of your different resources that you can use, your journal articles, your books, your newspapers, your magazines, your oral transcripts, documentaries, go to the library, Google search, Wikipedia as a last resort, just don't quote it. Or just don't reference it. And then we get into where we've actually organized our research paper and our essay, and we've gotten information on paper. And for me, I know when you come up with writer's block, this has been the easiest way to get past that writer's block and get me to where I'm actually putting a paper together. And you start out with your 3 to 5 page essays, and then you move on to your 10 to 15 page research papers. And then at some point in time, you'll be able to do this for a dissertation or a thesis or something like that. So does anybody have any questions?